Our goal is to create a society with moral and godly standards by using the influence of our well-built programs to pass the right message. Glass FM, your number one radio station.
Good day to you, listener out there. How was your day? How was work today? I hope you're all doing fine. Welcome to another edition of the overview on your number one online radio station, Glass FM. I am your host for today, Sunday Nanmini Rejoice, and I will be taking you through with the topic domestic violence. I know someone out there might be wondering, what is domestic violence? I'll be taking what domestic violence is. Domestic violence is a violence committed by someone in the victim's domestical cycle. This could include family members, other relatives, family, and friends. This domestic violence is basically talking about a violence that is being done to someone by his close cycle. It could be his uncle, his auntie, his family members, his friends, anyone around him. That's what domestic violence is basically talking about. The violence that occurs to someone from his or her close cycles. And there are also forms of domestic violence, which are physical violence, sexual violence, and also psychological violence. I'll be taking you through with what each of these violence is, but before I do that, I'll be going on a musical break, and when I come back, I will tell you more about each of these domestic violence. Don't go nowhere.
Hello everyone, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. My name is Kespan Yaronzaki. You know what? I'd like you to keep listening to Glass FM. This is where you get a whole lot. Music, sports, news, you name it. You don't want to be anywhere else in the world right now. Just keep listening, alright?
Wasting the life that the good Lord gave me. Then somebody said, what I'm saying to
back from that musical break. It's actually a throwback Thursday, and we just played you a throwback music. Before I went on that break, I was talking about domestic violence, and I also said there are types of domestic violence, forms of domestic violence, such as physical violence, sexual violence, psychological violence. I'll be taking it bit by bit. I'll be starting with the physical violence. The physical violence is a violence that occurs to the individual physically, such as slapping, hitting, just any violence that has to do with the physical pain that is being inflicted on the individual. Either the slapping, the beating of the victim, just a direct pain that is being inflicted on the individual. Then the sexual violence, it's any violence that is being done to the person sexually, be it sex that is being done to the person without the person's consent. It will also be known as rape, because rape is any sex that is being done to someone without the person's consent. So that's what sexual violence is basically, since it's being done without the person's approval and the person's consent. Then there's also psychological violence. This is a type of violence that is being done to someone which affects the person mentally. It's not a kind of physical, though it could be physical also, but this one has to do with the person's mental health, such as embarrassing the person in public, saying all sorts of things that will make the person feel bad, will not make the person to feel welcome, or anything that will just make the person feel not accepted in any way possible. Then there are also the causes of domestic violence. I'll be taking the causes of domestic violence, but we'll be going on a time out, and when I come back, I'll be taking the causes of domestic violence. Don't go nowhere, it's still the overview program.
Mama Joy, you see they do like this, you no go change business pattern. Abi you never hear of Glass FM?
Papa Timo, which kind talk be this one? Wetin that one come mean sef? And which one be Glass FM?
Glass FM na better online radio station wey dey help business women like you, business people entirely sell better market. All you need to do na to wire their green on
abeg, wait make I carry my phone.
+234 90 311 01001, or you fit call +234 812 8803452. Once you wire this number wey I mention, you fit make 1 billion like that woman wey dey sell kulikuli.
Oh yeah, make I wire their green now.
Hello, who is on the line?
Glass FM, I mean they call.
Glass FM, making a difference.
All right, welcome back from that time out. Before I went on the break, I was talking about the types of violence, the types of domestic violence. I took the sexual violence, the psychological violence, and I'll be taking the effects of domestic violence on the individual. Some of the effects of the domestic violence, the victims tends to also be violent. The victim tends to also be violent because when the victim is used to violence, he tends to also adopt to that type of violence that is being met on him or her. He tends to be aggressive because it's affecting him psychologically, mentally, sexually. The person will not be free to some extent, and it could also lead to the individual also being violent. Also, the victims tend to abuse drugs. Sometimes when the person is being abused, because domestic violence is also a form of abuse. When the person is being abused in one way or the other, using any of the forms of domestic violence I just mentioned, when the person is being abused to some extent, he might tend to abuse drugs. Maybe he will feel, if I take the drugs, it's going to make me feel better. It could make me forget some of the some of his thoughts, because the psychological violence affects him mentally. So he feel maybe at that moment he can just tend to forget and find peace in the drugs, which is not just an option, because you find out that even after abusing the drugs, you still wake up. It doesn't solve your problems in any way. You still come back and you still have to deal with the problems you are actually facing. Another effects of the domestic violence, the victim can harbor suicidal thoughts. In some cases, the person might just feel like, okay, I should just commit suicide. Let me just end this life because I keep on facing this form of violence psychologically, maybe sexually, and maybe he will just feel like I should just end this life because what's actually there. But you listening to me out there, if you are going through any of this, just know that suicide is not the way out. Drugs is not the option. Just be able to find somebody in which you can be able to confide in, and then you can seek help. Then another effect of the domestic violence is inability to trust. Because this domestic violence is being done by your close members, maybe family members, uncles, aunties, relatives, you will find it hard to trust someone, because you feel if this can be done to me by my close relative, then if someone outside is doing that to me, he could actually do worse than they in the family are actually doing. So they will find it very hard for them to trust and maybe open up to people, let people into their lives, and so on and so forth. Then it could also be emotional detachment. This emotional detachment, maybe they can also find it hard to kind of connect to someone emotionally. They can find it hard to get into relationships of any sort, maybe friends, not really a love relationship, maybe a friend-to-friend relationship, a love relationship, or any form of relationship, because they tend to, in some cases, withdraw themselves from any emotional detachment. Okay, I'll be going on a musical break, and when I come back, I'll be taking the solutions to domestic violence. I'm still your host for today, Sunday. Namini Rejoice on the overview. Don't go nowhere.
Glass FM, making a difference.
I lift my hand tonight. The limitations are broken. I lift my voice tonight. All the walls around me have fallen. The word is working. The word is working. The word is working. Oh, the word is working. The word is working. The word is working in me. Go!
Welcome back from that musical break. It's still the overview on your number one online radio station, Glass FM. Before I went on that break, I took the effects of domestic violence, and now I'll be taking you through with some of the solutions to domestic violence. One solution to domestic violence is you should try to speak up. Seek help, because if you find out that if you keep keeping it in, you are not letting it out, somebody outside might not know what you are going through. You will not know what is actually inside. You will not know that you are actually facing that type of violence. You will feel maybe you are okay, but deep down you know you are not okay. So you need to speak out, need to seek help, because if you don't seek help, nobody will really know that this person really needs help. Then the second one here is you should try to contact the nearest human rights. You can get to contact the human rights in which they can able to follow up your case to really investigate and make sure that justice is being done to you out there. Then you can also contact a counselor, someone in which you can be able to confide in. You should tell him what you are actually going through. The person can give you some advice. He can let you through on some of the steps you are going to take to be able to set yourself free from that kind of domestic violence, be it the sexual violence, be it the psychological violence, be it the physical violence that you're actually going through. So I'll be taking a brief rundown of what we went through today in case you are just tuning in now. When I started, I talked about domestic violence, which is a violence that is being done to someone, either he or she, that is being done to someone by his close family, his or her close family. That's their family members, be it your friend, be it your colleague, be it your uncle, be it your auntie. And I also took the forms of violence, some of the forms of domestic violence, which are physical violence, sexual violence, psychological violence. The sexual violence is basically sex that is being done to someone, either he or she, without the person's consent. The physical violence involves physical pain being inflicted on the victim, be it slapping, be it hitting, be it pushing. Then the psychological violence is a form of violence that tends to affect the person either mentally, psychologically. Some of the forms of this psychological violence is maybe embarrassing someone in public, trying to make the person feel not among, just trying to neglect the person in one way or the other. It was actually an amazing time with you here in the station. But before I proceed, I would like to give few seconds silence for the people that died in Turkey, Syria, due to the earthquake that occurred. So I'll be taking few seconds of silence for those that lost their lives in the earthquake. May the souls of the faithful departed rest in peace. And I am sending my condolence to the families of the deceased. I pray that you are going to be comforted in Jesus' name. Okay, before I go, I'll be calling our social media handles for sponsorship and advert placement. On Facebook, you could reach us at Glass FM or Glass FMs. On Instagram, we are available at Glass FM Radio Station, Twitter at Glass_FM. You can also email us at glassfm.tv@gmail.com. Our phone lines are +234 812 880 3452. I call it again, +234 812 880-345-2. It was actually an amazing time with you out here, but as it is, time is ticking, and we have to go. Do enjoy the rest of your day and stay tuned to Glass FM. Have a nice day ahead. Bye.
Are broken. I lift my voice tonight. All the walls from me have fallen tonight. I can do anything tonight.
Glass FM, your #1 radio station.